I have a very good friend in America, and they introduced me to here for exhibitions, and that's why I'm here. I was always curious, interested in Persian culture, prehistoric time, such a rich in culture, but unfortunately, many reasons I couldn't travel as casually as I like to. So my journey of photography actually started from Egypt 40 years ago, and then went to the Syria, Jordan. Then after that, all those problems happened in the Middle East, so I have to kind of divert my journey into eastern part of Asia. But with this opportunity of having exhibitions and publishing book, I said this is a great chance I can come see it, and I hope this is the first time of more number of time to come in the future. I like to plan, I'll be going to Isfahan in few days, just for survey to see what's out there. And I know there's much more than Isfahan in whole Iran, but I have to think about the whole project, because I'm a photographer with a project oriented. I just don't go there and click, share. That is not what I do. So I create a theme other than sacred places. Yes, there are plenty of sacred places in Iran, but even within that context, I have to think about a little deeper and how I would like to compose whole image of Iran. So that's still I have to study a little bit. I went to Kashan for a few days, few days ago, and then Tehran few days, and Isfahan few days. So that's my like a kind of introductory trip to Iran. For general art, yes, I haven't seen some, but mainly those like graphics of Iranian language, Persian language, that become like beautiful designs. That I have been following, but in photography, telling the truth, I was not well informed, or I haven't had a chance to see enough of it. So until I received one book from Nabshi as a sample of a book, that was the first time actually I see the whole complete work of a photographer, of Iranian photographer. I have to say, the spirit is still Japan.
The spirit.
The heart is Japan. Technique, business way is here, is America, because I learned how to run the studio, how to use the equipment, how to sell to the gallery, how to deal with a publisher to make a book. All those in America I haven't done in Japan, but not from college in Japan, but just living in the countryside, then we went to the city, that how I see the things, observe and feel, that is to here, not here, and that still in here. So I can say I have a Japanese heart with American brain. And unfortunately my brain is kind of small. Yes, I think, yes, I did study zone system and how to make a fine print, beauty of a print. I learned from Ansel Adams print. Actually, that was my sample. I tried to refine my skills. But I have to say, I'm not so inspired by Adams photography itself, because I'm not like nature photographer. I like feel some kind of human existence behind of nature. So in that sense, I like more of Edward Weston than Ansel Adams, but it's in some degrees more like I like Irving Penn. He was a commercial photographer, a long time, a master, and yet same time he did do his own artistic photography. It's influence of commercial or artistic part in influence in his commercial work, which was exactly how I started. I started making living by commercial photography, but in same time I started my journey of Sacred Places series very young, and I was keep thinking I can do same time commercial photography and achieve my fine art career. And I met Irving Penn in late years, and I was really, really impressed at how he was until last few years of his death. He was still working on a new series of his work, constantly trying to achieve something. And I like his vision of seeing the people, seeing object. So if I choose one photographer, influenced me is Irving Penn. Earlier day is Edward Weston, and for technical part is Ansel Adams. It showed me that the beauty of platinum prints, contact platinum prints. His platinum print is small, was 8 by 10. But that was the first time I saw that original platinum prints in my hand. I went to the auction house, not to buy, but to preview. And the small image of platinum prints, like glowing, the light coming out. And that was the time I thought this is a wonderful technique. It's not ordinary black and white pictures. And then I learned that was platinum print. And also I learned platinum prints need to be contact printed. So you cannot enlarge from small negative to large print. It doesn't work. You have to have same size. So in that sense that Paul Strand used 8 by 10 and 8 by 10 print. That was a reason how I started platinum printing, and then why I decided to make 14 by 20 camera, because I needed that size of a film. But Irving Penn later, he photographed in a 2¼ 6 centimeter square medium format camera, and he enlarged big negative, and then platinum prints into size of this, like 1 meter size. I first saw his platinum print exhibition at the Museum of Modern Art. And print itself was not nearly impressive as Paul Strand, because it was enlarged print. And then almost I thought, why does he have to make a platinum print? Because he makes a beautiful gelatin silver print from 606 negatives. His portrait series, I think it was shot in the Middle East, somewhere in a tent, or went to the Papua New Guinea, every place is, I think, part of assignment with the Vogue magazine. And he did his personal work. I saw exhibition at the Marlborough Gallery in New York City, I think in 1970, early 70s. I was so impressed, and how he does a portrait. I think he was a master of portraitures. But anyway, he started to make the same image in platinum prints. That I'm not really accepting it. You know, I think there's no need for it, because of gelatin silver print as original was the best you can do, and platinum print is not exceeding. It's downgraded, but people start to see the platinum prints are more valuable, more rare, and bigger price. So people do appreciate the platinum prints, and that is not what I really like about. When I do platinum prints, I don't do it because of that reason. Because of original contact platinum print has a very special glow, which I saw at the Paul Strand print. So only one part I don't accept with Mr. Penn was why they have to make a platinum print. He has to redo those images already existed as a masterpiece in gelatin silver print. He redo it with a platinum print. And then I saw both exhibition, both print. I think the original is much better. And other one is a platinum print. So people always say, wow, the platinum print, this big. But to my eyes, there wasn't the beauty of platinum print. Platinum print's beauty is in the middle tone, in a gray. And Irving Penn, and same as Eiko Hosoe, he's actually like my master in Japan. He did a beautiful black and white photograph of Ordeal of Rose. Mishima Yukio is an author, Nobel Prize author. He did a series when he was on the 20s, and a beautiful series. It was very strong, black and white, very grainy, sharp pictures. I thought that was wonderful. In later year, he started to make it platinum prints with copying the prints and making platinum print and showing. I didn't see any beauty of platinum prints in there. I couldn't say because he is my master, but I thought this is like what Irving Penn did. Why you have to redo with a platinum print, because originally the beautiful gelatin silver print was there, and that was widely known. So people, many photographers actually start to do a platinum prints as like novelties because it has something extra. Elliot Arwick is a Magnum photographer who's good with a snapshot. It's very humorous pictures here there. He did also the platinum print. I think it was a request by Gary, and then that was such a mistake because I saw the print was so poorly done. That kind of sold his name to Lowell, and quite a number of photographers they do that after they established famous and make a beautiful print, and then they make platinum prints as a novelties to me because I don't see anything more than from the original because already they reached to the top, the best with their original gelatin silver print or other medium of prints. Always I print myself except this exhibition. So that, because under the circumstance, I couldn't ship my prints from my studio and the time frame is limited. So first time in my life, I sent my USB drive with files and I printed. Some print is, yes, it's very nice, and some, I wouldn't make it like that. Adjustment of density, contrast, subtle difference. It's not the big difference. I'm very happy with in general, but I wish I could do because because regardless of digital or analog print, in my studio I have everything. In my studio I can photograph, develop, and print either digital or gelatin silver print up to 8x10 and larger, and platinum print. Everything I make sure that I can do all by myself because of one famous quote Ansel Adams said is making photograph is like making music. The negative is a score of music, but printing is like playing a violin or playing a piano. So combined together, beautiful music, beautiful player, then complete music. I firmly believe, because that's why I don't let other people, even when I had assistant in New York City, darkroom assistant, I wouldn't let them print it. They help me print it. They help washing the prints, or after I develop, doing mechanical part can be done by assistant, but actual chemistries or exposures or adjusting, I did everything, no matter what. Because I'm a firm believer of a printing part is like half of the photography. So other half is you take pictures, so you have a digital file, yes, half done. Other half is going to the computer, and changing a curve, density, and choosing a paper, choosing an ink or pigment, or a platinum or gelatin silver, and make it on the paper, then finally it's done. So someday I'd like to have an exhibition here in Iran with my platinum prints, gelatin silver prints, or signed type over the platinum, all those originals. Digitalize the image and making a good size of exhibition prints and having exhibition, yes, that is a practical part when other logistics is not less than perfect. So that is good. Right? Like looking at the book, you can see it, the image is there, but it's half done. Yeah, actually the subject or theme I choose, that dictate what kind of technique. That, for example, sacred places, when I was photographing mainly the sacred architectures was surrounded by sacred air, that has to be large format, and then I have chosen platinum printing, contact platinum printing. That's the only way to capture the air, because when I photograph those pyramids or Stonehenge or Angkor Wat, that I merely taking the picture of shape of architecture, but I'm taking picture of the air surrounding it. And so for that, I found that large camera and contact print is the ideal way. For example, I started with using 4x5 small view camera, still large format. I captured some essence of it, but it wasn't enough. So I started to use 8x10. Then it's more, but it's not enough. So I got 14x20 and contact prints. Then that very dark pyramid over there, that was it. That in a third time to Egypt, I first went with the 4x5, second time 5x7, third time, okay, I'm gonna go directly. Then I got it. So it's dictated by the project. But other projects, such as it's not in this exhibition or book, but called India of Eternal Light. That is about the people who live and die in the fringe of the society of India, and they living with the faith of Hinduism, and living, working, and dying by the river Ganges, which is sacred river for the Hindu people. They are craving for the die by the river of Ganges, cremated and thrown into the river. Then they can have a better reincarnations or cycle of life. That, when I thought about this project, this cannot be a view camera. It's completely nonsense using platinum printing, because such a luxury things of like a pure essence of a people's life. So I have chosen a Hasselblad medium format film camera, using a film, and then start to shooting with a handheld or a small tripod and go into that most intimate place that the person is about to die. Then they allow me to come and photograph. Those places, setting a tripod and view camera, that is not possible, and it's not needed. It's not appropriate at all. So I have chosen that the smallest possible camera, but still quality of print is still good. So I have chosen Hasselblad. And then another one in this book, it's Pompeii, the Requiem of Pompeii, is like a recreating, staging that shot of 2,000 years ago. Nearly 2,000 years ago, volcano erupted and the people buried, died, and they discovered the form of a people have died. And then I like to photograph like a few years after the eruption. Everybody dies, gone, but grass started growing and flowers start to bloom, trees started growing. And I have chosen this. Actually, I started with a 14 by 20 camera, but I brought the Hasselblad digital camera as a secondary camera because of a fresco painting was 2,000 years old, so vivid, beautiful. So I wanted to document it in color photograph too. So I brought the Hasselblad, so simultaneously photographing both. But when I started making a print, it's actually photograph I shot with Hasselblad converted into black and white suits much better, whatever reason is. So I made one set of platinum prints to donate it to the museum who hosted this project in Italy. But other one, including my exhibitions, which is expected in December, is all made from Hasselblad digital camera. So digital file, and making a prints about the same size as this. And then now current work, I'm working in Japan with a no mask from medieval time of no is a traditional play with wearing a mask. And the mask survived for 600 to 500 years and they were in the museum. I got permission to use it, to photograph it as a still life or as a worn by a no actor to photograph it. For this, again, I didn't see this is a subject of a platinum prints or contact print. And neither I didn't see this is a subject with a digital camera. So I have chosen 8 by 10 view camera. It's more compact, a little more flexible, and yet produce a negative that I can put into my enlarger and making a print, desired size of print, gelatin silver print, because of the quality of a mask is best reproduced with a gelatin silver print. So after I tried digital 14 by 20 platinum and then gelatin silver print, I realized this is it. So I choose those techniques according to project. It's not other way around. It's often people see me, it's mistakenly seen my work because of am I want to showing off my platinum print or digital fine prints of that, because I use like a best possible equipment. Even the digital, it's medium format, large one, so quality is superb compared to the Nikon or Canon. But that is just come from a project required certain equipment. Actually, when I don't own the Hasselblad digital camera, which costs like $50,000. I couldn't buy it, so I requested the Hasselblad, can I borrow it for 1 year? And then they loaned me. So I use it because I need it for the project, and they are happy that I use it. So it's fortunate that I have access to anything I needed, because when I see some subject and making a storyboard, how I'm going to show it, how I'm going to make a book or exhibitions, then it does dictate certain techniques to follow to everything fits in, because I don't want to change the equipment from middle of a project. So something I do a lot of tests, I go to scouting to test it out and think deeply about how I'm going to make the final work. So that is how actually I was going to teach at the workshop tomorrow, because people, young photographers, they first of all, they should have an option to each one, not stuck with a mobile phone. This is great, but this is only one way. but they should know how to handle the real camera, or better yet, how to handle the camera with a film in it, because it does make a different kind of work. So when you conceptualize some work that you want to create next 5 years, then you should have option, not in just one way. That is a pity, because if photographer knows only one way to show in a print, so it should be different way. And me, with my generation, started with old-fashioned camera and darkroom work. That's necessities. And then I learned about the view camera, because when I was in art college in Tokyo, they requested me, every student, to use a view camera, big one. 18 years old kid with a view camera, but that is mandatory for the school. So I use it, and I got the hang of it. So I enjoyed. So when I come to New York, using a view camera is nothing strange about it. So 4x5 or 8x10, 40-20 is same principle. And I had a Veronica medium format and Japanese camera. I was a student. So since I was a student, I was fascinated with very fine detail produced by bigger film. So I had a Nikon too, but I begged to my parents and buy a Veronica, and I was very happy with that quality of image. So when I come to New York, then I bought the Hasselblad, because it's practically the same kind of camera, and I still do use. So the Hasselblad film camera was used for India Eternal Light project. First time in 35 years, I pulled out my Hasselblad, and I still make beautiful pictures, and very handy. I can go into the dark corner and I can shoot it. And so having an option is advantageous for young photographers. So I think they should experiment at least. And all the institutions, including Nabshi, should give young people to have opportunities. Ideally, you build a small darkroom here, and then loan a camera here, and provide a film. Let participants pay minimum amount of money and experiment in those, and then find out what the gelatin silver prints from a film can make it, where you can do with an iPhone and take pictures and put it into the printer and make a print. The difference is, I'm not saying which is better, but to have the option of either way, that is really helpful for achieving a professional career. I may have started to photograph the people, orphans or sick people or dying people in Cambodia, but that is not me. I like to continue as I am as a photographer, and as I believe, I don't want to show those to the face of audience. I like to photograph Angkor Wat monuments, but the title is Ancient Angkor, Shadow and the Light of Ancient Angkor. So the light is glorious past with beautiful architectures, but the shadow is the people suffering behind. So the people don't relate immediately to those hospitals of what I have founded, but instead I start to give a talk associated with any exhibition of Angkor Wat, and I believe that the art can make a difference. Yes, directly you can make a difference. If I'm the Steve McCurry, then goes to Afghanistan and photograph those refugee girls in fearful face, photograph it to show to the world. I'm not that area of photographer, but I called up photographer friends, more than 100 around the world, and said, let's make a difference by photography, by art. Give me your print, donate it. We'll auction in New York, and build a hospital and run the hospital with the money. Because most of photographers, my friends, they are fine art photographers who make a prints, show at the gallery, sell the prints, and make money. And so am I. But instead of the money to my pocket, donate for help the children. That's how I did. So I made a phrase at the beginning, friends without a border, no border, we are the friends. Now also, yes, we artists can make a difference too. Not just the politicians or not just the wealthy big industry, but artists can make a difference. It may be small, but we can make a difference. So that was my belief, and I was happy. Arvin Penn included. He has been a supporter of this project since the very beginning. He has been donating his work each year, and it's usually fetch the most expensive work amount. And so as my dear friend Hiroshi Sugimoto, also my very old friend, he has been donating the work every year. So as many Richard Avedon did it, all those people are very famous, but they also resonated about art can make a difference in a society. None of them really want to go to document those sick people or dying people. That is not their way of photography, and so am I. So sometimes I was asked from my friend, Kenro, why don't you grab your old Leica and then photograph those kids and then show exhibit in New York, then they can grab the people's heart stronger. I didn't believe it. It may give a punch, surprise, but it's not going to be a lasting impression to the heart. I think it's much better with showing a good fine art work, but behind the story, that people can dive into the depths of photography. However, that is what I like to do. So, I never look for some photograph with a punch or just instant grabbing somebody. So I like to quietly get into your heart, audience's heart, and then let them think about beauty and shadow side of a beauty. So, light and shadow is a principle of photography. Photography can be made with light and shadow. Without either one of them, it doesn't exist. But it's same within this society as human beings, light and shadow. Partially because of a language program. Like Daido Moriyama, I know him. He is not good lecturer, talker in English. I haven't even heard him talking in Japanese. Photographer is traditionally in Japan, Japanese. We have all the saying, quietness is a gold. Don't speak much, it looks much better. My parents' age, actually, especially for men, my parents said, Kenro, when I was a kid, don't talk so much, that's a girl talk so much. Boy should be quiet, don't move, then you look better. So that is an old way. So me, I'm such a talker. American brain. After I come to America, I made many error by not talking enough, not talking in detail. So my fellow colleague, American friends, didn't understand, misunderstood me. So I decided that I'm going to talk like Americans do, which my opinion is they talk a little too much, especially men, but to clear about what we're thinking. For example, when I was running my studio, I had American assistant. And when they make a mistake, small mistake here, there, I just didn't say anything. And then after they make 100 mistakes, I said, I think you're not good, you have to go. And they start to get angry. why you don't like me? He said, well, you made this mistake yesterday, you did mistake last week, you did. Said, why didn't you tell me each time I made a mistake so I can correct it and I can be better? And I thought, that's right, he's right. It's not fair. So I started to say each time they make a mistake, then I don't get angry. I don't like to raise a voice. I said that was not good. You should do this. And then when they make good things, then I compliment them. Oh, you are wonderful. You are nice. Then they're happier. So I learned in that way. So from my childhood in Japan, I was educated not to talk so much. But after in America, yes, I have to talk a lot to communicate. First of all, English is my second language, so I have to talk to supplement to the word I say. It may not be exact word that American may understand, but by supplementing other phrases, so make sure to communicate well. And especially after I founded the Friends Without the Border, because I didn't want to change the style of my photography, I have to supplement my photography by why am I want to build a hospital in Cambodia. Because this photograph won't tell. This photograph will be sold, the money will build a hospital, and money will run the hospital. But I have to say why I did it, such as 1993 when I went to photograph my 14 by 20 cameras, setting up in front of Angkor Wat. There's 20 children came and looking at me with the camera, and they are curious and they are very cute, big eyes, and among them there's boy no hands, few boys has no hand. They were picking up that bullet from a swivel and exploded, or grenade. They blown up, no legs, step on landmine, and the girls, half of her face was blown out. So those are the kids around Angkor Wat. And I thought, wow, this is awful, because civil war was still going on, and the victim is not the soldier, but ordinary people, the village people, farmers, and the children. And then when they lose a hand, go to hospital, well, they might cut the hands off, but no artificial limb hands, nothing. Government is not doing anything, well, they don't have money. And then if people dying, then let them die. And one decisive moment was second year in Cambodia. I went to that local hospital run by a Cambodian government. And then I want to see what the situation of hospital, because I saw so many kids on the street without, with injuries and a problem. And then one girl was there on the bed, accompanied by a father. And at that time was interesting. I just divorced. I had one daughter, 12 years old. And then I was taking care of my daughter on the weekend. I was cooking for her and taking her to that park and those. And when I went to Cambodia, there's father and daughter about the same age. It looks like the same, because we both Asian, look same. And then the girl was unconscious, so I asked the father what happened. He said his daughter was sick, and he took the girl from 2 days away village, remote village, on the back of a motorcycle, back of a truck. Finally came to the Siem Reap, with the second largest city in Cambodia, and brought in the hospital. So he thought, okay, my daughter is saved. That wasn't true. Doctor asked the money, $2, to save the life of this girl. There are doctors and nurses, and I saw the sign said UNICEF distributed medicine for this hospital. So I know there is medicine, but the doctor want to make $2. And then he didn't give the medicine. So when I went to sit there and I talk to the parents. While we were talking, she died in front of my eyes. So if I were there one day before, I could pay $2 and get the medicine shot or IV, maybe saved. But what shocked me was the doctors, they go to the medical school 4 years or 6 years, good education. They learn how to save life, right? But he was there to make money, not to save life. He could save a life and ask money later, but he didn't do it. He waited until money comes and let the girl die. So I was very angry and sad because I can see reflection of myself, my daughter, to this family right in front of me. So that was the time I decided I'm going to build a hospital for children for free of charge to save life. It will be small hospital, we can't have much money, so it will be small hospital, but still want to save life because it can't happen. And I like to show to that Cambodian doctors and nurses said, your job is to save life. The money may come later, but you have a skill to save life. So let's save life first. So that is the philosophy. So I said, I made a phrase in the hospital, treat every patient as if your own child. If you think this patient is your own daughter or son, you will do everything. It's not the money, you do everything. So that was a starting point. And because I'm not a doctor, I'm not rich, I'm not famous or politicians, I couldn't do anything, but I organized a not-for-profit organization named Friends Without a Border, because I'm not a doctor, so I cannot join Doctor Without a Border. If I'm a doctor, I may join them and I go to those places and I treat, because it's such a, when I see the doctor, volunteer doctor comes to our hospital, saving lives in their arm, I said, I wish I want to do that, because with your hand and skill, knowledge, saving a life, that's, nothing more great than saving a life. But indirectly, I like to make a place so that people can save lives of the children who desperately need it, because the country's average family makes like $4 or $5 per household. So annual income is like $1,000 or something, 1,000, 2,000. It's very poor. So that is the reason, and that was the time I decided. And 25 years has been passed. But still the hospital is running now. So now, 5 years ago, we created a second hospital in Laos with the same philosophy. So I like to have Laotian doctors and nurses say that life is so important. Treat every patient like your own. So they do the best. And then I'm hoping those children who's been treated in our hospital, because so many volunteer doctors from all over the world, actually more than 40 different countries, the volunteer came. So when those kids, Cambodian kids, Laotian kids, see that doctors with white skin, black skin, yellow skin, different language, different religion, praying different way, but he or she feels that, they are different people, but the friends helping me. Our family is very poor, we don't have money, I know, but they saved my life, not only life, but doing rehabilitations and staying in a hospital for 1 month, 2 months, and when they leave, no money, and then everybody waving and happy. So that's wonderful, isn't it? That was time, early 70s. I think that was a great time in America. It's very positive, and because of the reason why I decided to come to New York, the early days was in Tokyo, in Japan. I was in art college. Among my friends in the college, we start to talk about when we graduate, what we will do, what is the option. Some of them has a photography studio, portrait studio in the family business. They inherited. Some of them work with their own sharp camera store. Some of them want to work for advertising agency like a Dentsu or those major advertising field. And there was not one option of art photography. Nobody even talk about it, think about it, because that wasn't existing. There was no art gallery, there was no art department in museum, any museum. But that time I saw the magazine, International Art Magazine. In New York, there's Museum of Modern Art has a photography department, treating photography as a form of art. And there were 2 art galleries dealing exclusively for photography, buying, selling photography as an art. So I thought, this may be for me, because I was really interested in expressing myself, my vision in photography. I loved photography. By then, I already doing photography, printing, developing the printing in my closet of my small house in Japan. My parents is always angry. This also stink with the chemicals and dangerous or what? And I was fascinated. So I was searching when I entered art school, what way I can make a living by photography. But news photography, during the time the Vietnam War was in the peak, and everybody said, if you become you get the green card, you're going to be sent to the Vietnam. And actually, the few of my friends from high school time, they heard that I become photographer and I went to the America and said, wow, Kenro went to Vietnam, maybe he died, because I haven't heard from him long time. So those rumors around. But actually, when I was in New York, there's pop cultures, and I love music. I love classical music, opera, and the jazz. So I start to go to the jazz club and listening to jazz. And when I have a little money, I went to see the opera, classic, listen classical music. I enjoy very much. But those pop art really didn't attract me. That is one of a culture at that time. But that is like a trend to me. I didn't think that was like long lasting. Yes, it is still in the form of art, and the Warhol painting is selling for the millions of dollars today. But pop art is not for me. Still, those days at the gallery and the museum, they were showing about the Steigen's work or Western's work and those classic F-64 peoples. Yes, I enjoyed looking at it, and then they are beautiful prints. I use this, as I mentioned earlier, I use one of those prints as my sample, the goal for my darkroom skills. And because of the skills, I got employed by a photography studio. I didn't speak language. I didn't even have a visa. So I'm not supposed to be working there. I was illegal alien. But because of my printing skill was good, so I was hired. I got the job, so I could make a living. And then when I have a green card, I opened my own studio. And I started with fashion photography, which I learned from a studio I worked as an assistant. But within 1 year, I realized this is not that I'm good at it, or I don't enjoy it for a long time. So I started to do a still life object photography. And then I start to take my view camera out and photograph for my, my personal vision photography. I think that's a difference of Western culture to Eastern cultures. Picasso's sorrow is not exactly the way of my blue body works sorrow. It's actually, there is a similarity to me. How I express is not the eroticism at all. It happened to be a naked body because when I put any clothes on a person, then suddenly become a different stage in photography at least. It possibly because I had a fashion photography background at the beginning of my career, I can do very well. I was afraid it become more like a fashionable pictures. So take a clothes off. It's not the purpose to showing that the naked body as a attract eroticism at all. And as a matter of fact, most of work is like a back or arm or part of bodies, so it's more like an object. But the why I did deep blue was about deep inside of a heart, that about it's not kind of a sorrow you lost your husband or wife, but it's about being a human beings, being here. That itself is a sorrow to me, because all those problems created by human beings, Earth was so healthy without the human beings. We did it all. So existence of a human being, it is a sorrow actually, so in a large, and that is one of a blue hidden theme and in shadow from a Japanese culture of beauty within the shadow. Western cultures, many people ask me when I have exhibitions, well, Kenro, don't you have like a beautiful blossom flower, rose in full blossom, beautiful things. I like rose start to wilt a little bit, see that little wrinkle on the petals. The life is kind of reaching to the peak and going down. I found it's a beauty there, but it's not really American, especially in the west coast of American people. They always have sunshine. It's very much like a culture of light, and where the Japan is a culture of like shadows, and that is represented in architectures. Like Junichiro Tanizaki's essays, a very famous one, In Praise of Shadow. I hear their translation is a Persian too. It's an English translation and Persian translation. I met the lady this afternoon. She said she knows it. And describe about how the architecture, how the house means to the Japanese. And when traditional big house, there's every corner as a shadow, dark spot, where we feel there is a God maybe hovering, whatever the God of a tree, God of a sun, God of mountains, that. And from that culture, in many thousands of years, the Japanese invented to find living in the shadow and finding the beauty within the shadow. And Tanizaki concluded his essay with where no shadow is, there's no beauty. So that is also very inspired. So those two, Picasso and Tanizaki, combined, they made me blue. And it was, timing-wise, it was exactly 100 years after Picasso's blue period, 1901 until 1904. And I started 2004 and 2001 to 2004. So a kind of my homage to Picasso with the influence of Tanizaki in it, and the way of a Japanese way of sorrowness in there. So it's not as simple as a blue, like a Monday blue kind of. It's not that those surface sorrow, but it's existence. So the model, actually, I hired from Japan. I invited her to come twice to America just for this project. And she is a Buto dancer. It's a very contemporary dancer. It's not the dance you jump or anything. It's slightest body movement. Sometimes she may lay down on the floor, and within 1 hour, she may move 30 centimeters. There was a performance actually at Whitney Museum in New York many years ago, and the two naked couple was on the floor in one room, like a dead, and the audience beyond the rope looking at, what is it? Is that sculpture or dead? Oh, she moved a little bit. So like a move, that was a performance. That was a Buto dancer. That they express their existence by not with a big movement, but their being there. So that was actually my concept. And then I asked this person, I saw her performance, I thought that she may be the right person. She's young enough, so she still wants to experiment something new. So it's collaboration. So I asked her to show her existence by not moving, by being there, and then just move a little bit of muscle on the shoulder. So when I was photographing her back, said, okay, concentrate into your shoulder, left shoulder. But now around the hip area, can you move the muscle and then express your being there? She can be happy being. It's depends on her interpretation. I don't want to put my idea onto her. She can express her existence by showing those slightest pose, not just standing, but just a little movement. And I found that is very interesting. To me, it was that 4 years when I was doing the blue series was a good exercise about seeing what is the existence of a human being is. I selected many locations, and then I selected each plaster cast that is actually human form who has died 1900 some years ago. So that I have to present it for a request of a permission of open at the site and then transport from museum to there for each morning. Yeah, I recreated the Pompeii eruption was, I think, AD 79. So just imagine AD 80, 1 year after eruption. The people vanished, but maybe dead body become a fossil, so it remains. And grass start to grow, a tree growing. Very interesting. When I saw the Pompeii, I remember the Hiroshima nuclear bomb only 75 years ago. Scientists came, I think American scientists came to Hiroshima to see, this place is no man's land, no flower, no tree, no grasses for next centuries. Next year, little dandelion flower pop, that is nature, strength. So as I said, without the human being, this earth is such a peaceful place. So even though bad things human beings do, still nature grows. And the Pompeii pictures, if you see, then some site is lots of grasses and tropical trees there, and then remaining of our fresco paintings or beautiful architecture there, broken, but it's there. And then dead body, fossil body is there as a witness. And being here, actually the body was discovered after 1700 years. 1700 years under the ash. Only 200 years ago, archaeologists found that there's empty holes under the ash. So he poured plaster, liquid plaster in it and cracked open. Then body like this, like that. So that was amazing. When I saw the plaster cast, I immediately thought about the Hiroshima, and I like to recreate the scene after destruction, whether it's nature destruction or human destructions. When you see those plaster casts, they have a real nail, teeth, some skull remain is there. Within that void, those soft tissues, of course, eroded, disappear, but hard one remained in place. So when you pour the plaster, that exact place. So I saw the plaster, but the real nail, I said, it's scary, it's like a dead body, it's like a mummy. And that seems to be, it's like a witness of those ages, but sleeping for 1700 years. And the last 200 years, start to come to the earth and see the whole things changing in Pompeii. And the people comes with stick with a mobile phone taking pictures. I saw many of group tourists come with, I can see the group comes, stick around and moving and playing to that the fence because there's a fence, and the camera goes in and taking picture of those dead bodies. And some of Pompeii's authority people who manage that, they are furious because please respectful for these are the actual people. It's not just a plaster. There's part of hair or skull or in the teeth is in there. So it's actually dead people. So when I went to in a glass museum to photograph the original cast portrait, I have to surround it with a black velvet to make all the black background photograph. I brought my incense at the entrance and the burn, and I pray, and then I enter. Because I feel like I'm going to the cemeteries. And the good things about those awards, the fellowship, they don't demand to show what you have done using the money. It was substantial money was given by Guggenheim. It was helpful for me to continue my journey over sacred places. So all I did was continue what I believe I like to do, but it is encouragement because of one theme, sacred places is I have been doing 30 years or something. Then time to time I start to feel, am I doing anything worthwhile, or am I just like an ego trip within me? But when I was awarded for those things, I said, okay, it's not just me, somebody else actually seen some value of the work. So, it's confirming that my passage is not wrong, it's not quite off. Of course, my passage always never be straight, like winding, going this way. I love to do a side trip because that's where I get lots of different kind of energy in it. Like those Cambodia or Laos hospital project. As a photographer, career of a photographer, it's a side trip because it takes up so much time and expense. So it is not directly helping achieving the photography, but indirectly it's enriching my knowledge, communication with other people, and the seeing and the feeling of my existence is helping somebody else, which is great feeling because often being a photographic artist, I sometimes wonder, am I just pleasing some art enthusiasm, those people to please their eyes, or some rich people to pay thousands of dollars to buy my work? Am I just trying to serve those people? So sometimes wonder, but when the people come see the show, and some of them feel giving some kind of peacefulness from my work, that's wonderful. And then also, like art can make a difference in somebody actually who might have died, saved a life. That is such a wonderful thing. So very indirect, but my existence with the camera is helping some people. And although with Cambodian children we cannot even communicate because of the language barrier, but when I see a smiling child, then I feel so good about what I do and what I'm being. So as it's such a thing of a being, human being thing, to be existing on this earth is already contaminating water as a photographer, using a chemical, contaminating groundwater somewhat. I do the best I can do, but still not doing good things, eating lots of fruits and vegetables, and, catching a fish and eating. So, but here I am, I was given a birth, and so do the best I can do. So, using photography as good cause is one really nice thing. So, as I mentioned, my side trip is always like it's not even a branch. There's a tree, there's many branches around, and it may not be necessary it's a photography. Sometimes photography, I experiment in this, or I work with somebody, my colleagues, do some project. It may not be my this series, but still it's giving energy and make myself rich. So that is something wonderful. Photography is a wonderful craft and a tool of expression and documenting a world. So I like to, people continue to loving photography, supporting photography, and for photographer, young photographer or photographer want to be, please experiment every possible way. Don't get stuck with one way. Same as living. You may have one way of living, but always try to see other way. Different society, different country, different culture, different religions. Because I learned so much by traveling with 40 countries with my camera and communicate, not with language. Eye contact, or having drink together, or eating together, or traveling together. I learned so much. So it's like life is a journey. So go travel. Go outside of country.